The man was standing over Elizaveta. He emphasized that the girl is no longer shaking with fear. Maybe she's used to it. But it was not important. It could be their last hug. Elizabeth was kneeling in front of the throne, on which sat a man in a crown. The girl admitted that she was carrying Sir Regit's child, Kirstana. This was her biggest lie, with which she tried to save her life. The girl was chained. Her pregnancy and childbirth was the only thing that could save her life now. Thanks to that man, she could stay alive. And this was Elizaveta's last chance. A man and a girl were standing in the middle of the festive hall. They were holding hands, but in fact the groom said that they were helping each other in this way, and it meant nothing more. It was a marriage of convenience. Elizaveta was sitting on the pill next to her husband. She worried about not being able to get pregnant, and therefore believed that she could not fulfill her part of the contract. It disturbed her. The girl kissed Regit, who was sleeping. She said goodbye to him, because the unbearable feeling of guilt did not allow her to live peacefully. And the man deserved a much better life, and without such a burden as her. A woman. A midwife entered the room and called His Majesty. She greeted the king and informed him that his wife was pregnant. But joy was not visible on the monarch's face. Something bothered him. The man was very angry. After all, his wife became pregnant and dared to run away, without knowing about it. He ordered not to let anyone out of the city and to close all the gates. In addition, it is necessary to strengthen the guard and city security. He intended to join the search on his own. The wife must have had a weak body because she was in such a position, and therefore it was not worth wasting time. The monarch could not allow a pregnant woman to escape. 700 years ago, a majestic and formidable dragon's wrath swept across the continent. One of his 5 students, whom the dragon taught and mentored, betrayed his mentor. He sided with the people. The dragon's best student used the knowledge he had learned from his teacher against himself. It was thanks to this that humanity managed to defend itself and defeat the tyranny of the dragon, and the country founded by the wizard began to be called Arkan. But the years of prosperity were interrupted by the invasion of barbarians from the north. The hooves of their mounts trampled the majesty of the sacred empire. The once majestic state collapsed under the onslaught of attackers, and at that time, the princess of a once powerful country was running away from her pursuers. She perfectly understood that if she was caught, then she should say goodbye to life. Her fate spun too quickly and relentlessly moved forward. In the Bonella military camp, the soldiers rose on the alarm. There was a rumor that a female fugitive from Arkan killed Sir Roderick. The orders of the commanders, who raised the soldiers to search, were heard everywhere. The woman was hiding in one of the tents of the camp. She herself could not believe that she was now hiding from her pursuers, right in the heart of her enemy's army. And before that, she risked her life to get here. 2 hours before, she fell into the hands of an unknown man. He was amazed that the woman dared to enter the military camp. Either the girl was too brave or just crazy. The soldier pressed her against the wall of the tent. He wondered how this arcane girl, as indicated by the whiteness of her hair, had gotten to this place. And was the runaway princess as beautiful as this stranger? Elizabeth thought it was time to use force. Magical abilities were supposed to help her in this predicament, which could have ended very painfully and fatally for her. The girl concentrated on the magic circle. Suddenly, the body of her rapist burst. She was covered in blood. It was unexpected for her. Elizaveta did not understand how she was able to do this, because she did not even touch the magic circle and did not activate it. She reassured herself that this was a night of an enemy country, and she just wanted to protect herself. But it was worth thinking about rescue, because when they find her here, they will take her back to the palace. And at the moment of greatest despair, she remembered her brother and her childhood. Then her brother taught her to use magical abilities. He taught her that the magic circles on her body were for attack and defense. She just had to touch the sign in her place and say her brother's name. But the mark on her leg was incomprehensible to her brother. He said Lisa would know her destination when the time was right. The girl asked to stay with her brother, but he said that in this case she would die. And for her, it is better to be even a simple slave, but in any case not to die in this mad house of various barbarians. Liza asked her brother to go with her. She didn't feel like a great magician like her brother, and if he stays and accepts death from his enemies, she will remain in this world alone. They were to run away together. His duty as Emperor Arcane was that he had to fulfill his duty as a monarch at any cost. The defense of the castle and the defense of the citadel was his last business. They said goodbye. Andrew sent his sister to the magical realm. She had to survive. And then Arkan had hoped to be reborn in the future. The guy ordered to always remember this and to survive at any cost. The boy's voice echoed in Liza's head. He ordered to gather strength and move on. She was the heir to the throne of the imperial family, and simply, even for the sake of her brother's memory, she must survive. The girl understood that she needed to get to the neighboring friendly country. Regal. There she had the opportunity to receive support and protection. Suddenly, someone called her. The girl was confused. No one was supposed to be in the tent. It is not clear who called her. However, a man approached her from the darkness. It could not be Roderick, because he was dead. Archduke Kirsten approached her. 3 years ago, a ball was held in the royal hall. It was organized in honor of Andrei Asake, the current Emperor Asake. Knights and ladies gathered and discussed something among themselves. Andrei was talking to his sister. He asked if she was feeling okay, and if it was better for her to stay in her room. The girl replied that because her brother was hiding her, they started talking about different things. People talked about the fact that Andrei had a relationship with his twin sister. She was upset that they were being talked about like that. However, soon her attention switched to an unfamiliar man. Regan appeared to be a stranger Kirsten. He was the commander of a detachment of knights from the neighboring country of Benella. In addition, Kirsten was the emperor's half-brother. Royal blood flowed in his veins. People talked about the fact that the emperor's ex-wife could have gone for a walk somewhere, and the then-emperor did not raise his hand to do something with the unwanted child. However, in the future, it would pay him back 100-fold. Kirsten became a great warrior and military leader. The emperor recognized his blood brother and gave him power. The archduke was very useful on the battlefield. He was like a bloody wind sweeping across the battlefield, and day after day he proved more and more his usefulness as a commander and a warrior. Everyone around called this man the bloody demon of war, or they called the emperor's personal dog. But no matter what, cooperation with him could not bring anything good. Now the girl thought that when Kirsten remembered her face and their meeting at the ball, she would immediately recognize Princess Arcana in her. He easily recognizes her as a fugitive. Lisa thought it was over. To her surprise, Kirsten ordered the soldier who heard the noise from the tent to go away and stay away. The girl looked in surprise at the sudden savior, who was holding someone's side. The next moment, something happened that Lisa definitely did not expect to see. Kirsten knelt before the girl. He solemnly said his greetings to Her Majesty Princess Arcana. He asked for forgiveness for his actions. He brought the girl to his tent. The emperor's brother said that it is not allowed for a girl to walk around the military camp alone and in such a form. Kirsten was looking for something in his chest. The girl looked at him in confusion. Lisa was still sitting in silence. She thought that the moment she was threatened by the soldier, something was released from her. She felt a certain pleasure at the moment when the offender was torn apart before her eyes. Kirsten broke her from her thoughts. The man held a rag in his hands and asked if he could touch the girl. He wanted to wipe the blood from Lisa's face and body. The girl meekly gave permission. Kirsten gently wiped the blood from the girl's body. Liza thought that this is not how enemies are treated. The man constantly apologized for every careless movement or touch that might offend the princess. When Kirsten finished, he called Reuben into the tent. The girl wondered if she would be able to save herself. Respectful and dignified attitude of the man could inspire some hope for salvation. At the call of the emperor's brother, a knight entered the tent. He looked at the girl in surprise and was sure that it was she who killed Sir Roderick. The knight could not understand what his master was doing. The man asked to treat Liza more respectfully and not to talk nonsense in her presence. After all, she was a real princess and belonged to a noble royal family. Sir Kirsten explained that royalty was not to be spoken to and treated like an ordinary woman, and it will be Reuben's duty to serve her faithfully and respectfully. The girl sat sadly in the tent. She thought about her future life. If the emperor's relative wanted to do something bad to her, he could simply and easily kill her. But why keep it? She looked at the 2 guards standing at the entrance to the tent. They were talking about her, the last of the Arkan imperial family. The men could not understand why she was still alive. One of the soldiers said that a messenger had been sent to the emperor with news of the princess's whereabouts, and the answer should come soon. His partner asked to speak more civilly about the rulers of Archon. The soldier replied that Arcana had almost ceased to exist. The troops are defeated. The capital is in their hands. The emperor died. Such a state no longer existed. Another guard warned him not to take it lightly. At this time, the soldiers began to talk about the legend that related to how Arcane was founded. Lisa thought about her brother. He was the last defender of the empire and its own shield and deputy, but Andrei was no longer alive. His farewell became a testament to Lisa at the same time. The girl wanted to cry from the grief and sadness that fell on her, but the princess understood that now was not the time for that. The girl decided to act. To begin with, she needs to gather as much information as possible about her enemy. This could save her life and continue to live for revenge against the enemy. The soldiers near the tent dreamed of how soon the military campaign would end and they would return home from the campaign. But it is important that the Archduke was in a good mood. But the emperor could prevent this. The guard said that it is a pity when such a majestic family of their country can be interrupted. The emperor was very afraid of this, and very angry that he had no successors. The Archduke was not quite human. The soldier said that there was not a woman in the entire kingdom who could withstand a half-dragon. The girl listened to their conversation and could not believe it. As a child, she saw half-dragons in books. They weren't even close to dragons. These creatures were described as not very intelligent and very closed off from everyone else. And they couldn't control the dragon's rage that flowed through their veins. They easily fell into a battle shawl and then really turned into mindless monsters. The girl thought with horror that her savior could be such a being. However, others not at all like them. 5 days later, Kirsten came to the tent accompanied by a woman. The stranger held a tray in her hands. The princess thought that they had brought her items that would help her shorten her life. The man said he had brought her a message from the emperor. His Majesty gave the opportunity to end his life by suicide. She could choose the method herself. Only the choice depended on her. Kirsten emphasized that she could commit suicide, or she will be taken to the capital of the empire and publicly tortured in front of a crowd and then simply beheaded. The choice was hers. The man explained that dying by suicide is the only option available to the last of the descendants of the ruling dynasty of the country, which lost the war and the confrontation. It was the last gesture of respect. But all Lisa's thoughts were where the idea of salvation by any means was still maturing in her head. She simply could not betray the memory of her brother and family. But Kirsten said that the emperor had sent a message to the girl. The princess looked at her recent rescuer. She asked if the sire would take her to Benella if she did not dare now to drink poison or accept death in some other way. The man assured that he would fulfill her request. In addition, he received an order to bring her to the capital in any case. The emperor ordered the princess to be brought to the imperial court, dead or alive. That is, even before death, she had to be careful. Lisa was holding a knife in her hands. She understood that she had no more chances. And the man was a principled and responsible person. His principles did not allow him to go against the received orders. She dared to end her life. But before that, she asked Kirsten if he would really deliver her body to the capital in complete safety and whole and unharmed. The man did not expect such a question. He did not think that such thoughts arise before death. The girl stabbed herself with a dagger. Kirsten rushed to her. Lisa asked if he would really take her to the capital. The man was not thinking about that. He tried to stop the blood flowing from the princess's shoulder and bring her to consciousness. Kirsten held Lisa in his arms. He tried to calm the princess down, and she said that she must survive at any cost. It was her sacred duty to her brother and the family of the rulers of Archon. The man was sitting in the room above the bed in which Lisa was lying. He thought that this stubborn girl did not want to die a noble death. After all, at first she simply ran away, and now she wanted to stab herself. Kirsten and his acquaintance were talking about Lisa. The comrade of the emperor's brother wondered if this was the same princess from the legends. Seeing her beauty, the men immediately understood why the ruler of Arcana hid her. Lisa woke up. She saw Lord Kirsten by her bed. The girl is amazed that he sat by her bed, but the Lord said he saw her pretending to be asleep. Kirsten tried to avoid the conversation. The girl dared to ask if she needed to stab herself again so that she would finally die and stop causing problems for him and Emperor Bonella. The man did not understand the question. Lord leaned towards Lisa. He tried to calm the princess down. The man emphasized that she should take more care of her health, but Lisa was sure that she would die anyway. Kirsten had anyone. The man replied that he was not married. After all, the princess should have heard the rumors about him. The whole continent knew about the secret of his origin. He doubted that there were any parents of a young girl on the entire continent who would want their child to marry a man who wasn't even fully human. This greatly embarrassed all the noble families. He was born from the blood mixing of two races, humans and dragons. An unbalanced creature that does not even belong to people. From the dragons, the Lord was given battle madness. The madness could only be controlled by periodically hunting and killing the victim. It might just be rumors, but she had heard that the emperor was in a hurry to give birth to a successor. The Lord replied that he was not in the business of killing young women for the sake of the birth of his offspring. The man could not even see traces of blood in the bed, and there was no question of murder at all. The girl asked if the Lord knew that in her veins flowed the blood of a former student of the dragon, whose magic allowed him to defeat the monster in the confrontation. Kirsten asked if she had magical skills. She answered that both yes and no. There is no unequivocal answer to this question. There were many legends about the Arcanum Lords passing down dragon blood from generation to generation. The nobleman understood that in a strange way the girl found something in common with him. He had heard legends about dragon descendants possessing magic before. In his opinion, this is how Lisa tried to win his sympathy. Kirsten himself could not understand why the girl was making life so difficult. She risked her position very much. In this case, she could simply accept death by her own hands. The man replied that he could not help her. He asked not to imagine anything because he has no such intention, and he doesn't want to make empty promises. These words confused. Lisa asked if he would change his mind when she knelt before him. Lord replied that this was an absurd statement and it would not change anything. She tried to cry and touch her heart. The Lord replied that he would feel embarrassed if the princess knelt before him. The girl replied that in that case she could commit suicide right now, right in front of him. She asked Kirsten to stay with him for now, even though he was uncomfortable and embarrassed. But if it was an order from a princess, a child of royal blood, then he couldn't listen to Lisa. Lisa slept again. In the spring, her brother came to her. She apologized to him for the situation in which she found herself. After all, she had no choice. The girl either had to become the Empress of Arkan or die. The girl talked to her brother about the fact that he would be able to revive their country. Arcana existed precisely because of his efforts, and without him, she is nobody. The brother asked her to listen to what he was going to say. He said that his sister is much better than she thinks. Lisa actually deserves a lot more. She deserved national recognition and admiration. The girl refused. She thought that if her brother had known about Lisa's intention to commit suicide, he would not have said such a thing. But Andrei asked her to return and bury his body as it should be. The dream is over. Kirsten had heard that the princess was sickly, but that was it. He analyzed his emotions and understood that something strange happened to him when he first saw Lisa accompanied by her brother 3 years ago. Then the Lord compared Lisa to a woman like a precious stone that he would never get. Their meeting took place at the most difficult moment for him. Then, Lisa seemed like a bright sun to him. His body felt like a ball of fire. He was very upset after the memories of their first meeting. He tried not to wake the princess, but silently enjoyed her beauty. The girl asked not to miss her very much after arriving in the capital. She asked Kirsten to think of this as his last battle. Lord pretended not to understand what the girl was talking about. Lisa asked not to think of her as some crazy person. She asked to be with her for the last time because she felt protection and peace around Kirsten. The man did not mind, but did not give himself advice. The army was returning to Bonella. Time on the road passed very quickly. After arriving in the capital, Lisa and Kirsten had to separate. It meant death for the girl. Lord tried to think of a solution. The soldiers were setting up camp for the night. The Lord promised that a separate tent would be pitched for the princess, but the girl protested. She said that she can sleep in any place. The man objected, because by this time Lisa was not feeling well. And because of a new case of illness, the girl could stop and delay the army on its way. The princess believed that everyone was disowning her. Lisa thought she should straighten up. The girl remembered the lake she saw on the way here. Kirsten noticed her uneasiness. The princess asked if she could bathe there. The man replied that he had to accompany her there. Something bad could happen on the way there. Lisa asked if he was worried about her running away or if he wanted to protect her. The girl thought that it would be very good when many people would see them together and notice how they would go together to the lake. Little by little, her plan began to materialize. Maybe it will save her. Kirsten said that the water was very cold. The girl could catch an even worse cold. Lisa assured that everything would be fine. The Lord asked the girl not to let water get on her wound. Lisa thought about the warmth she felt when Regit Kirsten was with her. She mentally tried to repeat it. She asked him to turn away because she wanted to bathe completely. The Lord asked to behave more modestly because it is difficult for him to control himself. It was hard for him to understand that they just wanted to use him, but the nobleman could not help the girl in any way. Lisa stood completely naked in such a vulgar way in front of a man in a foreign, hostile country. And just like that, not knowing why, she gave herself into his hands. But Kirsten still remained honest and noble. The Lord asked Liza to wait before bathing. Tomorrow they will reach a settlement where there will be an inn where they can take a bath. After all, the stones in the water were slippery from the moss. The girl insisted. She just wanted a little refreshment from the road. Kirsten assured that it was worth waiting, and not to swear nonsense. The girl wondered if the Lord would continue to be so noble. The vanilla plan was not to fail. This was her last chance. Everything around suggested a romantic mood, but the Lord held his own. He was an honest and noble nobleman, and therefore he could not afford reckless actions. Since Princess Lisa got to Lord Kirsten, she was in Benella. Time drags on for a very long time for the princess. She spent time alone. To Kirsten. He reported that the fourth Prince Yanok was visiting the imperial palace Sikat from the kingdom of Ugal. A red-haired man was approaching the Lord and Lisa. He asked Kirsten if he had caught Princess Arkna. The girl was very scared. Ugal had always been her country's mortal enemy. She remembered the numerous bloody raids of the barbarians. The fourth prince announced that he had gone to Arkan to see the princess. But he did not have time. The princess ran away from the palace. He heard many legends about her and her beauty, which his brother hid. But now he saw before him a charming girl with white hair and golden eyes. And before death, it was worth seeing such beauty and enjoying this sight to the fullest. Over time, the prince was ordered to find Lisa and bring her to the capital. But the Lord did all the work for him and delivered it straight to his hands, for which the barbarian was grateful to Kirsten. The barbarian extended his hand to the princess. The girl warned him that he would die a heavy death if he dared to touch the magic circle on her body. The Lord confirmed Lisa's words and told about the death of the soldier. Sir Kirsten stood in the way of the barbarian prince. A quarrel arose between them. The Lord emphasized that he received the order from the emperor himself to deliver the princess to Benella. He warned that in order to hand over the captive to Prince Ugal, an order from the emperor himself was needed. And until the Lord receives such an order, he will not give up the princess. And to be more specific, the girl belonged to him at the moment. He looked into the eyes of the princess and said that now they were free to go on. The conflict was over. The emperor greeted the princess and the Lord. His Majesty was very pleased with such guests. He warmly welcomed the arrivals. The emperor asked if the princess had not been very wayward on the way. His Majesty answered honestly that he hoped for her nobility and counted on the fact that she would end her life with her own hands. But the girl preferred to arrive at Benella alive. Kirsten guessed that his ward was up to something. He remembered Lisa asking him to be alone with her. She tried in every possible way to provoke him to love and captivate his attention. The Lord told her that after arriving in the capital of Benella, Lisa would be given to Prince Ugal. Also, she should not hope for salvation in vain. After all, the barbarians wanted the death of Princess Arkana. The king revealed that the barbarians had agreed to take Lisa's body after she was executed. It was impossible to give them alive the princess and the last of the ruling family of Arkana. This could have ended badly. The Lord asked how many days the execution would take place. The king said 5 days. The emperor could not believe that the young ruler of Arcana had died. If not for his stubbornness, he might have survived. Kirsten thought that if he were Andri, he would try to negotiate with his enemies in order to survive and rule the legendary country. In the future, it was not known what would happen, but there would be a future. Yogi Majesty said that his brother had never lied to him, so it was easy to see with the naked eye. Kirsten was confused by the question. He didn't expect to be chewed up so easily. The emperor asked, "Did nothing strange happen to the princess on the way, and did the lord not see any oddities behind her?" The question stunned the young nobleman. He hesitated to answer. Lord replied that nothing unusual had happened, but before his eyes stood the image of Lisa when they were near the lake. He remained silent about her attempts to drag him into her game for life. His Majesty saw that something was happening in Kirsten's soul. The emperor sent his brother to rest, because even a half-dragon needs rest. Finally, he reminded me to look at the list of brides. He emphasized to his brother that he could no longer remain a bachelor. The lord had to marry and start a family in order to become the heir to the power of Emperor Benella. The emperor emphasized that he did not give such a position to his brother for nothing. It is worth treating his grace with respect. Although his plan was not dictated by good intentions, Cyrus the Great recalled his first meeting with the emperor. Then the noble extended his hand to the future lord. The man did not want to lose such a specimen. After all, a half-dragon in a human body was amazing. Lord recalled that he had told his named brother many times about the slim possibility of having children at all. After all, the mother of his offspring will die even before giving birth. A child was simply impossible. The emperor was angry. He said that he would independently select some strong and plump women for his brother, and he would at least try. After all, Kirsten's mother managed to carry him. Kirsten himself was already a miracle. The lord was annoyed and said that he would go to rest. Behind him, he could hear the shouts of the emperor, irritated by his behavior. Kirsten remembered his birth very painfully. Then his mother could not give birth to a child for a long time, and finally a half-dragon was born. He tore open his mother's belly and just got out. All half-breed pregnant women die this way. His named brother simply did not see it with his own eyes, and that's why he was so stubborn. Cyrus the Great planned to return to his estate as soon as possible. Lord fought the urge to see Lisa one last time. Although he understood the senselessness of their meeting, the girl was in prison and was soon to die. Kirsten himself couldn't do anything about it. Before putting the shackles on Lisa's hands with his own hands, Lord Kirsten wrapped a handkerchief around the girl's wrists. In this way, the pressure on the hand and skin of the princess of the shackles should be reduced and not harmed. The barbarian prince visited the cell in which Lisa was sitting. He teased that her brother had a very cute face, but it was no match for her beauty. Deacon knew that, even before his death, Andri transferred his power to Lisa. The girl guessed that it was about magic circles. But how could a barbarian know about this? After all, only she and her brother could see magic. The prince was determined to test his guess before her death. The barbarian opened the door and wanted to enter the girl's cell. Lisa panicked because she could not defend herself. But a lord appeared from behind and struck the prince, and he lay on the floor. The girl still could not understand the motives of the lord's behavior. She looked at her savior. Either it was the emperor's plan, or the lord was just a real knight. But whatever it was, she thanked. Lord was leaving the cell. Lisa told him that she couldn't lose him. The lord was surprised. He definitely did not expect to hear this from the prisoner. Kirsten left the girl he liked. The day of Elisavetta's death has come. The lord did not want to stay in this city. He was returning to his place. The servant arranged a horse for him and loaded the treasures presented by the emperor. The servant asked the lord if he would like to go to the square and watch the execution. Kirsten had no desire. Everything was about to begin. From the very morning, a lot of people gathered on the square. No one could miss the execution of the most beautiful woman of Archon. Soldiers carefully watched the order and the city. This event was supposed to become the most popular for conversations among drunken people and ordinary residents of the city. There were rumors that she could even disappear during the execution itself because she possessed magical skills. The Lord could no longer listen to the servant and ordered to check whether all things were in place. The servant asked if the Lord would like to look at Lisa's last moments. After all, they spent so much time together, and their relationship looked very intimate. But the Lord did not wish to watch the execution. The Lord ordered the servant to pack things and catch up with him. He had no desire to stay or return to the capital. The servant could not believe his master's words. It was very cruel. Kirsten, she reported that the emperor wanted to meet his half-brother. It was about Princess Arcana. Lisa appealed to his majesty before the execution. The girl repented that she had discovered the weakness of her spirit and could not end her life with her own hands. And the Arcana people did not even see the princess, and she could not demand respect for herself. She turned her back on her people and ran for her life. But she had to survive to return and take care of her brother's grave. And besides, to calm the people after the barbarian invasion, she said she was carrying Redjet's baby Kirstana. It was a lie, but it was the girl's last chance to survive. The emperor at first did not believe what he heard, but Lisa confirmed her words. The emperor was looking at the woman with whom Redjet had spent the night. His Majesty asked if Lisa knew that Kirsten was a half-dragon, and bearing a child of such a creature is not easy at all. The emperor asked how Lisa found out about her pregnancy. And did the princess have proof of this? The girl replied that her brother was a magician, and therefore she also has magical abilities. He used to check the condition of the body by controlling its flow of magical powers. And she also has mana-sensing skills. And in this way, Lisa feels all the changes that took place inside her. The emperor asked if the girl was saying this in order to save her life before being executed. Lisa assured that everything depends on the decision of His Majesty. The ruler believed that the Lord should make the decision. Kirstna enters the hall at this moment. He is accompanied by a servant. Lord looks at the girl. He asks for a personal meeting with Lisa before giving an answer to the emperor. His Majesty forbids. The emperor calms down. He asks the servant of the Lord, Sir Reuben, to tell in detail everything that happened to his master during the entire journey from the military camp to the capital of the country. Kirsten is talking to Lisa in the garden. He doesn't quite understand why the girl did that. The princess asks for time to explain. Lord asks why the girl lied about her pregnancy. Lisa openly stated that she did not want to die and was not going to die. She must return alive to Arkan. She has a very important business there and must survive at any cost. The Lord replied that in such a case, she should solve this issue on her own and not involve him in her intrigues. There should have been a more acceptable option and a more reasonable solution. The girl asked how he would act in such a case. Kirsten said that in any case he offered a more acceptable option. But Lisa believed that the Lord would not even listen to her then. She emphasized that he had said many times that he was not going to help her, and therefore the Lord would not even listen to her excuses, and she was supposed to die on the square today. Lisa knew that the emperor wanted Kirsten, his half-brother, to have an heir, and therefore the princess will bear him a son. With tears in her eyes, the girl simply asked to use her. Lord confirmed that he is very uncomfortable when he is terrorized by the birth of his son. The girl believed that their agreement could become profitable for both of them. The man asked if she was really ready for this. Lisa agreed. The man asked if she understood the seriousness of the situation and the consequences of pregnancy from such a being as him. The birth of a child can lead to its death, as it happened to his mother. He was very confused and worried by Lisa's self-sacrifice and willingness to even die in order to give birth to Kirstana's son. Although in reality it was a desperate desire to save himself. Lord asked if this decision was made deliberately. After all, the girl could be very deceived in her expectations of a bright future and a peaceful life. It might not be worth it. He wondered as he looked at the princess. How could she maintain such an air of innocent noble girl when she could offer him such? The girl apologized for having dared to defile his nobility. Lord said he never refused to help her, but he does not support her decision. But he would have done the same in her place. She could share information about dragons or secrets of the arcana. The man wondered if it would not be better to choose a more noble death. After all, such a death was appropriate for the princess of a once powerful country who lost everything she had in the struggle. Lisa thought that Sir Kirsten thought her act was bad and unworthy. And really, what could she do now? The princess could not influence her fate and what was happening around her. Even after returning to Arkan, she could not rebuild it. But she remembered the words of her brother, who assured her that the main thing for her now was to survive. In this case, the Arkan will stand in the midst of bad weather. Lisa could not simply give up after such words. She felt like an unusual woman. The girl knew how to use magic, and it could help in her plan to give birth to a half-dragon heir. Lord stated that he had no desire to keep a woman who resisted him and could not control herself, and so he gives her a chance to think about it until tomorrow. And then everything will be decided. The princess said that it was not necessary. Her decision was final. She was not going to change her mind because she had no other choice. The decision was up to Kirsten. The Lord stood before the Emperor. His Majesty listened to Kirsten's servant and asked his half-brother if he had indeed spent the night with Princess Arcana. The Lord asked if it counted that they slept in the same bed. The Emperor was glad that his brother had succeeded. He emphasized that Kirsten allowed the stop for 5 seconds, and therefore he was hiding something. Besides, they spent the whole trip together, so there was something. Cyrus the Great asked his servant what he had told the Emperor. Reuben replied that he simply told about everything he heard and saw. He just said that Kirsten and Lisa had been close for almost 2 months. His Majesty on the throne ordered not to try to hide anything from him. He knew very well about the Lord's visit to the imprisoned princess. After all, the man wanted to know what happened to his pregnant girlfriend. Cyrus the Great asked why he was being questioned about all this, if the answer was so obvious. The Emperor said that he had sent a doctor to the princess from her native land, from Arcana. He was supposed to take care of her, and the doctor's conclusion will be the final verdict in this case. He had to put an end to this story, and one more question should be revealed. Is it really Roget's child? The Lord asked what exactly His Majesty meant. The Emperor replied that the girl had been outside the palace for some time, and a lot could happen there, and you need to be absolutely sure. The Emperor began to talk about the gossip about Lisa and her brother. Kirsten declared that the nobleman was lying to his future wife, to which the Emperor replied that it was worse when she lied to him. The ruler stated that when he found out about Lisa's deception, he would worry about her dying a hard and very slow death. He will give it to Prince Ugal. Then she will definitely go through hell. The Lord stated that, in his opinion, the princess was not one of those women or girls prone to indecipherable relationships with men. She was a decent and noble lady, and her health did not contribute to this. Kirsten stated that his bride had never been in the arms of another man. He was sure of it. And everyone, I thought otherwise, were just liars and tried to defile Lisa. Lord believed that sometimes fate just mocks people. He couldn't believe that his bride would be the girl he dreamed of hugging even after the first meeting, and he could save her from death. After talking with the Emperor, the Lord went to the tower where Lisa was. His servant tried to stop his master, but to no avail. He tried to calm himself down and think about the future. The doctor told the girl that her heartbeat was very weak. She didn't want to say anything bad, but that's how the heart beats in those who are close to death. Lisa assured that it had always been like this. The girl was lying in bed and thought that the next day her lie would be revealed. The doctor took all the necessary tests on her, and tomorrow she will tell the Emperor that Lisa is not pregnant. The girl only won the day. She had a dream. Lord Kirsten came to her. She recoiled from him because he still did not want to help her and did not even dare to defend her in front of His Majesty. Why did he come? The girl was sure that it only brings suffering, and she had to die to keep Lord Kirsten safe. She did not count on his help. She cared about him, and if her lies were revealed, then he should have allowed her to end her life by suicide, so as not to become a victim of the enemies of her native country. She wanted this night to never end. Kirsten sat silently next to Liza. In the morning, Lisa was woken up by a servant. She introduced herself as Vesa. From now on, she will become her servant and will constantly accompany and help her mistress. She is ordered to follow all of Lisa's orders. The princess asked who ordered her. The girl was surprised by such a question. It is obvious that this order was given by the Duke. Liza was already thinking, why a servant to someone who was going to die soon on the scaffold? After all, Lisa will soon become the wife of Lord Kirsten. Something that no one could even think about for a long time will happen. The Archduke is finally getting married. and he marries Princess Arcana. The union was to be blessed by the gods. The Duke came to the bride. He asked about her well-being, because Lisa had been in bed for several days. The princess was overexcited and lay down from exhaustion. The girl is impressed by the devotion. The princess is amazed that she is still alive. Kirsten replied that the emperor had been calling him to him for several days and was arranging interrogations. He was tired of justifying himself to his brother, but this was a sacrifice for Lisa. The Lord said that for her sake, he was ready to endure challenges to the imperial court for a long time, for the peace and safety of the princess. After all, he expected that the girl would really become the solution to his problem. According to the legend, the blood of the descendants of the hero who once smote the dragon flowed in Lisa's veins, and Kirsten was a child in which the blood of two different races, humans and dragons, mixed, and she is the only one who can handle him. Herzog assured that Lisa can feel at ease. The doctor who examined her was bribed. The emperor believes Kirsten spent the night with the princess on their way back to Benella. The girl thanked for the rescue. Lord assured that this is a contract that is beneficial for both parties, and this is just a contract marriage on mutually beneficial terms for all participants. The issue was that they had 6 months left to conceive a child. After all, the emperor can think of something and begin to suspect the conspirators and will clarify the secret. The Duke assured that when the situation gets out of control, he will reveal the truth to the ruler. He will also take the blame so that his beloved does not suffer. She will have some time to escape. Lisa noticed how her husband had changed during the time they had spent together. He acted quite cold, but was actually very kind and caring. He protected his beloved from disagreements. The princess asked if Kirsten would be comfortable with a woman who was very inexperienced in this matter. The Duke is stunned by such a frank question. The girl asked not to drive her away and not to scold her. Lord tried to joke. He said that it is good that his wife knows where children come from and does not think that they just fall from the sky. But they did not have a clear description of their duties. The doctor ordered that they make love 5 times a month. In total, it was published 30 times in 6 months. The girl offered to double this number so that the result was mandatory. The Duke is surprised. Kirsten suggested not to count times, but simply to write that they have the opportunity and desire to make love. It shouldn't feel like homework for either of them. Lisa counted the days left for her. 1 day of postponement stretched for 6 months for her, but now she still has 9 months left. Herzog said that when she got scared, she could run away. But the princess thought otherwise. She understood that during this time she had to come up with a plan for the future or escape later. From this moment on, she was not to waste a single moment in vain. A few days later, Lisa and Kirsten were standing in the throne room. They were to get married. The girl thought that if her brother saw this, he would simply go crazy. Andrew promised to find her the best match on the continent. Her husband had to be kind and decent, and all his thoughts should be about Liza. The wedding day was supposed to be the best day of her life. She would be the most beautiful bride in the entire continent. The priest assured that as a servant of God, he upholds their promises and sanctifies them, and now they must exchange kisses to confirm their true intentions and their vows to each other. The emperor watched the action. The Duke asked before the wedding why he should get married, because the birth of a child should be the greatest proof of his ability to have an heir. His Majesty assured that the birth of a child out of wedlock would dishonor Kirsten and his wife, and that's why it's worth going through this action. But all the same, it would be better if the lady from Benella became his wife. A huge role was played by the Duke's personal affection for Princess Arcana. If this had not happened, the circumstances would have been completely different. It is obvious that Lisa seduced the Lord only for the sake of survival. The Duke really felt as if under a spell. He understood that it was difficult to evoke true feelings in his bride. There was no love between them, but there was a pure calculation that benefited both. The girl offered to imitate a kiss, but the Duke insisted on a real kiss. He did not understand what had happened to him. Was it an instinct or an impulsive act, or the desire to own Lisa? Immediately after the completion of the solemn part of the wedding, the Duke and his wife left for the estate. Lisa and the servant discussed the wedding. The princess listened as the servant talked about her with delight. The maid assured that during the entire ceremony, the knights and knights present carefully watched Princess Arcana. She impressed and conquered everyone with her beauty and charming outfit. The Duke stopped the carriage. He suggested his wife to go out and walk in the forest. After all, the sun was shining brightly outside, and he wanted Lisa to breathe fresh air and relax in nature with health benefits. Kirsten offered to wear a hood so that the sunlight did not pass through the face of his bride. The girl was worried that she would not see where to go, but the Duke assured that he would lead her. They drove through the forest. The Lord said that a walk in the woods would be good for Lisa, and next time she should spend less time in the carriage and rest in the fresh air. Just have to ask. Lisa replied that she spent a lot of time in the carriage when she lived in her kingdom, and that is why she is more comfortable inside than outside. It was as if she was under arrest. Lisa remembered the past. She was sure that her brother loved her. When he returned to the palace, they could walk for a long time in the garden that grew in the fortress. These days were special for her. The girl remembered the walks in the garden for a long time, although she usually got sick immediately after them. Suddenly she stopped. Lisa realized that she was all right. Although she was on the street for a long time and was in prison, the princess could not understand how the wounds from the shackles disappeared so quickly. It was impossible to believe. She became healthier in terms of physical health. But how could this happen to her? Kirsten thought that this girl was too fragile. She was in poor health, and how she was going to give birth to a half-dragon. If even the shackles left marks on her hands, even though she stayed in them for a while. The Duke offered to go to the nearest village and rest there. Lisa agreed. She worried that the Lord might get tired. The servant who heard this was not jokingly excited. The girl reported that she had a strange feeling, as if someone was following them from the thickets. She asked the Lord to stop the horse and the entire post, because there was something unknown and dangerous ahead. The arrow flew a couple of centimeters in front of Lisa. The Duke ordered to prepare for defense. He will lead the defense of the princess while Ruin watches over her. Enemies were hiding in the woods. A hail of arrows fell on the Duke. Reuben ordered Lisa and her maid to climb into the carriage. Although the protection from arrows was weak there, it was still a better option than in the open air. Lisa asked Sir Reuben and all her defenders not to touch the arrows. She recognized this weapon. When the princess was fleeing from Archon, the Ugal tribes fired such poisonous arrows at her servants. Lisa remembered the last X-Conversations bro. He told her about the properties of magic circles. Using their energy, the girl could defend and attack. The girl touched the magic circle and activated the mana. Prince Ugarya came out of the forest. He could not believe that Lisa had activated the protective barrier. The Duke did not know that his wife possessed such powers. Prince Ugal asked if Kirsten really didn't know about magical abilities. The prince asked to give up Princess Arkna and give her to him. He didn't think a half-dragon could fall in love. Cyrus the Great became angry with the barbarian, and then he promised to leave his country. The Duke was turning into a monster. He asked why the barbarian princess, but it was not important. He was just burning with rage. Kirsten asked who they were if they dared to attack the Knights of Rothier. The world and everything around was red with the blood of the barbarian. In the end, Ugal only warned that this silver fox from Arkna would bring him to his knees. He found his doom, and the last refuge awaits. Sliga looked into the carriage. She said that everything is calm outside. It was quiet and peaceful there. The Duke and his knights repulsed a treacherous ambush. The girl must have been very scared, thought the servant. They were so engrossed in the conversation that they did not notice how one of the enemies, who managed to survive, was approaching them. The barbarian exerted all his strength and pushed the carriage off the rock with a push. Reuben reported that a barbarian who had survived the battle had crept up and pushed the carriage. This happened right after the princess removed the protective force shield from the mail. Her Majesty saved the maid. Reuben felt guilty that he did not have time to save the princess. He was going to go down into the valley and look for at least the body of the princess. There could be enemy casualties nearby, so he will go on his own. The Duke allowed the idea that perhaps it would be better for his wife to die now. After all, she will die anyway, when she will be torn apart by a half-dragon child, which will tear apart the mother's body. Reuben was still awaiting orders from his master. The Duke thought it would be better for the girl to drown in the lake. After all, in any case, her death will be tragic, and it is better for her to leave quietly. The princess could not believe that God had decided that she should die in this way. Then it would be better to die at the hands of the executioner in Benella. But the lust for life and the royal blood ordered not to give up. The memory of her brother and his sacrifice for her prompted Lisa to activate the magic circle. She couldn't just die like that, drowning in the lake. It is worth fighting for life. The Duke should have already looked for her and come to the rescue. Kirsten made it to his beloved. He understood that he simply could not live without her. Lisa's blue eyes disturbed him, and now he understood that he could not live without this woman. The princess noticed the lord's excitement. People who could just lose each other were sitting on the bank of the river. They truly loved each other. A spark flew between them, and you can already forget about their agreement, because love has come. Lisa remembered a scene from her childhood. Andrew was standing next to the bed where his sick sister was lying. The doctor told his brother that the princess had miraculously survived. He didn't know exactly what had happened to her, but she was on the verge of death. As a child, Lisa was always jealous of her healthy younger brother. He could freely walk on the street, travel and solve the affairs of the royal family. She wanted to be like that. The girl said that she really does not want to get sick. Lisa said that her hair gets lighter every time she's sick, so it's going to be completely white soon. The brother assured that his sister was beautiful. The girl hid the fact that she was sick for a long time, and every meeting or walk was very painful for her and had deplorable results. Lisa has reached the point where even her soul hurts. The doctor advised her to take medicine, but he warned that this drug could, in large doses, become poison for her weakened body. The girl understood that life would no longer be the same as before. Andre held his sister in his arms. He blamed himself for the fact that she appeared to be such a tearful person. The prince cried and begged his sister not to leave him alone. The boy fell into despair. The prince was going to engrave magic circles on his sister's body. He asked if she was willing to suffer a little pain. The girl assured that she was ready for anything. Andre was going to share the power with Lisa. Since then, Andre continued to draw circles on his sister's body. He was sure that in this way he would impose a powerful protection on his loved one and be able to protect the girl from troubles. Kirsten brought his wife to the guest house. There he examined his wife's body and made sure that she was completely fine. The knight did not understand how she survived at all. The girl said that the reason is magic. The Duke was angry. He told his aide that Ruthier's knights would be punished. They could not fulfill their task, and therefore they will suffer a well-deserved punishment. The knights became a squad of cowards. Lisa asked not to be too strict with the knights. Lord replied that she should not worry about it. The princess's maid was injured after the carriage fell, so the Duke himself will serve the girl. The girl was embarrassed. She replied that there were some things that she was not comfortable doing in the presence of her husband. The Lord replied that sleeping in the same room with a man is not scary. Lord gently pressed his wife. He assured that Liza should take a bath, because the girl's body is very cold. The husband was going to take off his wife's clothes himself. She did not refuse. The princess could not refuse. Her husband assured her that he was very concerned about her condition and could not allow Lisa to get sick and go to bed again due to illness. His heart was restless. The girl understood that sooner or later this had to happen to her. She has to learn to live with it. After all, the period in which they were supposed to have a child was ahead. So everything was fine. She just had to get used to it. Lord undressed his wife. And the girl thought about the fact that time, near the lake, as in the case of the soldier who attacked them in the camp, there was such a feeling that the strength simply rushed out of her in a stream. She was examining her body to understand what had happened to her. What a powerful magic Andre concealed in her by drawing magic circles. The Duke ordered her to call him when needed. The man was still standing by the tub of water. Lisa asked if he was mad at her. After all, his voice and behavior seemed to have become angrier and angrier. The girl blamed herself for what happened. The Lord assured him that he was not angry. And the girl's words that she was causing some problems were far from reality. She did not cause him any problems. And it was true. He added that they have a contract, and he simply takes care of his wife, who was supposed to give birth to his successor and heir. This is mutually beneficial care for your partner with whom you have a relationship. Kirsten blamed himself only for not being able to protect his wife. He worried about how she could get hurt or die. In the depths of his soul, the Lord could not forgive himself that he had failed. And before all this, he unleashed his dark essence. The crown was not connected with hatred for the prince or for the Ugal country. Kirsten was simply sickened by the prince's greed for the bride. Herzog was torn by contradictions. He even calmed down when the carriage fell into the water. But then he was overcome with horror. He couldn't believe that his person would just disappear. The princess asked if he really didn't care. Kirsten said that among all those under his protection, the princess is the most valuable person. It was like this before, and it will be like this in the future. Therefore, she may not worry. The Lord assured that he had lost everything that was dear to him at the time, and now he has a certain support in life, and now he cannot lose the princess dear to him. In addition, there was a contract. The girl understood that she could drown in that lake, but the Duke saved her. It was still a mystery to her. Lisa asked Kirsten not to trust anyone else with her. She wanted protection only from him. The girl was sleeping. Kirsten looked at his wife. It remained a mystery to him why the girl remained so cold. No matter how much he hugged her, she still remained cold. The Duke lay down on the bed. He placed the girl's body on his stomach and chest. Lisa woke up. The situation was a little unusual and excited the princess. She was in such a position for the first time. The girl felt something hot and hard. She was confused, but the prince asked to take it as preparation. The girl was afraid to move, so the Duke took the initiative into his own hands. Lisa whispered softly in the Duke's ear that he wanted this so much, and she was ready to give him the warmth and tenderness that he so longed for. This moment almost destroyed all the walls between the two lovers. The princess said she was a little uncomfortable, but Kirsten emphasized that she should be a little patient. After all, he will not be able to control this process. The man promised to be gentle with the girl. The Duke was actually cautious. He tried to do everything carefully and not too forcefully. He did not want to hurt the girl. Lisa was the best thing that happened to him in his life and will be in his life. Kirsten's honor arrived in Ruthier. The journey was supposed to end here. The maid rejoiced for her sick, but well mistress, that she would no longer have to suffer. The duchy was located in a region where there was no cold and severe winter. The maid told about the peculiarities of the local climate. It was because of the very good weather conditions that the territory was very valuable. The girl understood that this would be her home for the next 6 months. Everyone in the palace was preparing for the arrival of the new mistress. The servants were all waiting at the door, their heads bowed low. The Duke asked the butler if nothing terrible had happened. The man assured that he reported all serious problems in letters. The butler's name was Alfredo, and he also served the Duke's father. Regit's assistant, Sir Sobert, turned to the host. He told the lord that he had documents waiting for him that still needed to be signed. He was a clerk and a faithful treasurer. Everyone parted as an elderly woman walked towards Kirsten. She congratulated the owner on his return. She was the main maid of the Pattinson Palace. She said she had recently received a message from Sir Reuben. The woman happily asked the alarmed Kirsten whether the mistress of the Rotier Palace had finally arrived with him. Everyone around breathed a sigh of relief. They understood that the woman, as always, got down to business. Those present understood that the rumors turned out to be true. His Highness got married and didn't say anything to anyone. The subjects rejoiced that the Duke finally had a faithful companion for life, but they will celebrate later. The chief maid of the palace said that for the sake of this marriage, His Highness even went into conflict with the Emperor, and this woman was going to see who the girl really was. The Duke was finally going to see the castle and show it to his wife. He suggested Lisa rest and go look around the property. Lisa assured him that he could take care of his affairs first. The girl suggested that she should not get lost, that Sir Reuben could accompany her. But Kirsten forbade the knight to do this. After all, at one time he could not protect Lisa from the barbarians. Lisa wondered what dangers could await her in this castle, because the Duke kept the enemies very far away. No one would dare to do this. Even if it is safe here, the servants are still slightly familiar with her. The girl said firmly that it was finally time for the servants to learn to serve her. After all, the Duke cannot always walk by her side and follow her orders and whims. Lisa said that the Duke could not run to her on the slightest whim. The servants listening to the conversation thought about the stubbornness of the new mistress. Only the head maid was not satisfied. The girl calmly answered that there are some things that she would rather do herself, And for this, she needs female servants who would understand the questions she would have. She was a little uncomfortable. Kirsten replied that it was not his duty, but his desire to help and protect. And if her conscience bothers her, then she can calm down. Everything he does is done for her good and to keep her calm. The girl did wish that the butler would help her. She must assume the rights of the owner and deal with the state of affairs that must be under her control. She wanted to look around the hall and go to her room. Alfredo assured that he would show her everything necessary and introduce her to all the servants who consult in this palace. The man offered to start by resting and having lunch. Lord was dissatisfied with self-government. The Duke ordered that his wife be treated respectfully and do whatever she asked. Everyone should treat his wife as he would treat himself. After all, she will not be a duchess for long. Alfredo talked about the fact that these lands were often attacked by enemies, and therefore special buildings were made here, which would help keep the defense against the enemy. Therefore, the bedroom was placed on the tower. Lisa understood that these lands could be considered blessed. There was complete harmony and respect for everyone. The attacks of the enemies ended in an era of peace and order in all the Duke's lands. But the girl could not lose her vigilance. After all, it is at such moments that you can fall into a trap or some kind of trouble. Since childhood, she considered the world safe and calm. The girl has not yet fully understood how to behave and what place she got into. This place could become another place to fight for your own life. Lord came to check on Lisa. The Duke took his wife in his arms and carried her to the bedroom. He wanted to help the princess, because she could somehow hurt herself on those steep stairs. And he will not forgive himself if something happens to Lisa. It will be difficult for him to conduct business because he will be constantly distracted, because he will worry about how his beloved is doing. The girl was not going to resist Kirsten. After all, he loved her. The bedroom was very high up, and it took the Duke a long time to get up there. He had never spent an hour getting to the bedchamber before. But he was satisfied. Lisa rested in her bedroom until her husband left her and went to deal with his affairs. The maid said that the chief maid and the housekeeper of the entire palace were to visit the new mistress. Rebecca brought along several maids to assist Lisa. The girl was surprised by such a number of servants, so necessary to her. She could handle her maid as well. The head maid said that they had all received the necessary education and therefore should serve the League very well. The girl replied that she would do without one maid. Rebecca didn't like that much. Rebecca, in turn, asked to trust her and not stay away and not refuse help. After all, the head maid worries about her condition because of the long journey to the Duke's lands. The woman said that considering who her host really was, the trip should have worn Lisa out a lot. That is why there is no need to refuse such necessary help. In order to monitor the girl's health and condition, Rebecca brought Dr. Rouatier. He was to examine Lisa and monitor her condition throughout her stay in the castle. The head maid pressed Lisa. The woman said that the Duke was now very busy with his affairs, which had accumulated very much during his absence. And that's why the girl should be examined. Lisa understood that this was the decision of the maid herself. After all, considering that the doctor definitely does not know that the Duke's wife is not pregnant, then Rajette should not increase the number of people who knew about it. The maid suspected something and wanted to find out everything for herself. She was trying to survive her master's new wife. Although it was not clear the true intentions of this woman, the girl insisted on waiting for her personal doctor. Besides, she wanted to rest and unpack. From the road, it was difficult for her to immediately go for a medical examination. The doctor and the maid insisted on their point. They argued that they care a lot about their mistress. Lisa realized that she should not trust anyone in this palace. The girl agreed to the offer. After all, if she continued to refuse, she could provoke suspicions on the part of the maid and the doctor. But the condition of the princess herself was deplorable. The doctor said that he cannot say anything for sure now, but in the future he should take Lisa's tests and draw conclusions based on the data obtained. But Vesa came to the defense of the hostess. The girl was very indignant at the behavior of the servants. Vesa screamed that the maid and doctor didn't even give her time to rest. You can't be so frivolous and stubborn, and the analyses will be done for a long time. Vesa said that delaying the medical examination by a few hours would not change the situation, and now the maid Rebecca and the doctor can go about their business. When they are needed, then they will be called. Lisa said that she did not expect this from a respectable lady who holds such a high position in the palace. The Duke's wife will definitely inform her husband about the order that prevailed here without him. Rebecca and the doctor bowed low. They apologized for their inappropriate behavior. The servants were ready to suffer the punishment that Lisa would offer them, and the princess emphasized that only Vesa will serve her. The girl did not like it when a bunch of maids followed her. Lisa will do without a large number of servants. Of course, if the Duke's reputation does not suffer from this. The princess asked Rebecca if she fully understood what Lisa wanted to tell her. The woman replied that she understood the order and she was ready to take away all the maids so that they would not disturb the girl. Vesa said that it was necessary to tell Kirsten about this incident to Rajet. After all, the servant is not ready to accept his new mistress. And that's why you need to teach them proper manners. It was obvious that everyone who served Liza were all sent people of the headmaid. There were almost no people on her side. Rebecca suspected her of something and tried to do her part. There was a huge possibility that when Rebecca found out about the absence of Lisa's pregnancy, she would immediately write a letter to the emperor, telling everything about it. This could not be allowed. Lisa had to find someone who would stand up for her. The only one she thought of immediately was her faithful maid Veta. The princess recalled how she saved Veta. Veta said that she would never forget what her owner had done for her. Lisa suggested that she change hosts. The princess did not force the Duke to betray her, but to help her. Lisa told about the senior maid who tries to spy on her mistress. The Duke's wife told her secret to the maid. The maid did not expect such a turn of events. At Kirsten, she reported that the girl needed rest and care, and then it will recover very quickly. There was no reason to worry. The doctor talked about the peculiarities of how a half-dragon pregnancy proceeded. The fetus devoured its mother. When he grows to the size of a child, he behaves actively. Although Lisa was an unusual case, but the embryos of the dragon, like the embryos of other monsters, behave in the same way. A mortal woman who conceived by a dragon would be left without a womb. Even if she managed to carry the child, the mother, from whom the creature would have sucked all the nutrients, had no strength left to give birth to a child. And that is why the child breaks the mother's womb and climbs out on its own. Lisa understood the Duke's words. The girl asked the doctor what to watch out for during pregnancy and when mating with a dragon. The woman advised to beware of the period when the anger and fury of the 7-year dragon bursts into our world. Then the monster begins to kill all living things around. Therefore, His Highness is often distracted from home on expeditions. He cannot be near his loved ones at such times. This mania will not go anywhere until he gets drunk on blood or victims satisfy his bloodlust. Dragons are also very pushy when it comes to sexual intercourse. Vesa dissuaded her new mistress from entering such a relationship with a dragon. It definitely shouldn't have happened, because otherwise Lisa would die. The girl asked the princess to think before doing. The woman told about everything she heard and saw. The Duke marveled at Liza's courage, but the woman emphasized that his wife, although feeling better, is still not as healthy as an ordinary woman. The doctor asked the Duke to be gentle and careful with his wife in bed. Liaz was not familiar with carnal pleasures. She has never been with a man, and she doesn't even think about it. The prince decides to wait a little so as not to frighten his wife. He has to prepare Lisa for the act. Rebecca came to him. She was asking for some attention for herself. Kirsten yelled at the maid. The Duke did not understand how his loyal subject could violate the order of her master. The woman apologized and is ready to atone for her guilt. She hoped that the boy would do what was reasonable. Rebecca reminded the Duke of when he was a child, and she, in turn, worked as his nanny. The woman emphasized that she is very concerned about the life of her foster child. The Duke should have chosen his life partner according to his heart, and not just follow various intrigues and lies. Rebecca asked, "Does His Highness really consider this girl to be his true wife?" The woman asked if the gossip circulating in the capital was true. Was the princess really saved from being hanged in the capital? And then Kirsten decided to marry her. And Lisa also abdicated the throne. Rebecca said that if the Duke could fool His Majesty, she certainly couldn't fool her. The maid asked why Kirsten had actually brought this girl to Rotier. The man interrupted Rebecca's angry speech. He said he brought this girl with him because he just wanted to, and even though she was his nanny, she should not exceed her authority. Rebecca said that the Duke's whole life, since he was a little boy, was drawn to people who would become like God. but that was the result of what he learned as a child through self-hatred. The woman advised the Duke to rest in his room. She promised that she would protect his peace. Rebecca will not stop trying to get revenge and find out the truth for herself. The girl dreamed of her brother. He asked how she could do that. After all, being the Princess of Arcana, she connected her life with Duke Routhier, their enemy. Andri ordered her to get away from Routier. Lisa woke up. She did not understand why her brother had been silent on the way here, and now he was ordering her to get out of the Duke's lands as quickly as possible. In addition, he does not understand that this is her only salvation. The princess saw that the seat next to her was empty. She could not understand why her husband had decided not to come to share a bed with her for 3 days. Almost a month has passed since the contract was signed. Liaz decided to go check on her husband on her own. On the way, she met Rebecca. She and the servants said that the princess should not walk around the palace in such clothes. Now they will fix everything. In a commanding voice, Lisa ordered an answer to the question of whether all the servants in this palace had been selected by Rebecca. The woman replied that she was coordinating the nominations with the butler Alfredo. The woman said that the Duchess candidates were sent here by the Emperor as maids. His Majesty is very concerned about how Kirsten's married life will turn out, Regetta, and therefore the servants here are not simple at all. Liza thought about the fact that if dragons really give in so easily to their desires and momentary impulses, then was there already a woman in this palace whom the Duke also held tightly to him? Kirsten finds out that his wife went to his office. The servant told about it and said that she could not prevent the mistress from doing it. The Duke asked how Lizzie was. The maid said that the princess could sleep so badly because she sleeps alone every night. And that's why her sleep is disturbing and restless. And all the way Kirsten was next to Lisa and protected her. The Duke was already on his way. Vesa told him afterwards that he should be more loyal to his wife and make time for her, and right now was a good time to be alone with her in the office. Vesa directed through which door the Duke was to go to his wife. The man thanked. Various thoughts swirled in my head. The main thing was that he did not want to offend his wife. Kirsten wanted to protect her and love her. Kirstana was only surprised by the presence of a door that led directly from his office to his wife's bedroom. He had never heard of her. Levessa said that's exactly the way Lisa went. The man was worried. Lisa thanked Sir Reuben for his help on those stairs, which were even steeper than any other in this palace. The man was embarrassed and said that it was his duty. The Duke did not have time to come to the aid of his beloved.